Welcome to Star-Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino-Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be. Welcome back, luminaries, to the final episode of 2022. Oh my goodness, we made it. I am recording this today on December 20th, and Jupiter has just moved back into Aries. I can really sense that shift in energy when a big planet, like an outer social planet like Jupiter, is just sitting on those final minutes of that 29 degrees of Pisces, just kind of that intensity that really builds up before it really shifts. I don't know if you're as sensitive as me, but like last night, I just felt like all of these emotions coming up, and I was like, what is going on? And now I feel like it is absolutely a new day. The sun is shining. It feels really hopeful, even though there are still some really big, heavy things that I know a lot of us are still holding on to as we approach the year end. But I really wanted to come on today for a couple of things. I wanted to chat about what it really means to ascend to your highest potential. And highest potential isn't what society and culture and business wants you to always think about, like the bottom line and constantly growing profits and productivity and all of this like kind of baloney, right? Really, our highest potential is knowing and receiving what is absolutely right for us in this moment of time. And so I wanted to connect the dots between what does this highest potential mean, even though sometimes things look like they can be dipping down or sliding backwards. That's not it at all. And how we can kind of use our year-end reflection and review to see how aligned we are with tapping into that highest potential that was available to you at this time. And so I'd like to share my year-end review. I've been doing this for a few years now, looking back at just kind of the year in numbers and, looking also deciding on the things that you will measure, right? Earlier I was talking about, this kind of baloney of just increasing profits over and over, quarter over quarter, increasing profits at all costs, meaning all costs usually like human resource costs, your own energy and your own capacity. But there are other beautiful countries in this world that don't measure productivity and profits. They measure things like happiness, days off, rest, peace. And so as we approach 2023, I want us to all really reconsider, what will we measure in the new year? So before we dive into kind of that year-end review, and I'm going to make this a short episode, of course, because it is the final episode of 2022. I know we have a lot of things going on, so if you are listening, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me in your ear as you go about all of the busy holiday things. But before we dive into that, I wanted to really talk about that ascending into your highest potential. And this is something that I shared really in my Radiate Masterclass that I held back in November. And you, of course, can still catch that replay if you haven't watched Radiate. People seem to really have loved that masterclass and got so much value out of it, where we took a look at our sun sign, at the energy, the source, the creative brilliance that needs to radiate throughout our lives, throughout our work. One of the key concepts that I was teaching in there is about your highest potential. And how do you know you're operating from your highest potential, even when things don't seem to be going hunky-dory? I know, having supported so many clients this year through mentorship, through Astro Brand readings, through teaching, and through this podcast, I take this position with a lot of responsibility, and I hold on to some beautiful and equally painful secrets and shares from my clients. I know that there has been a lot of grief this year, a lot of things that have fallen between the cracks, a lot of things that didn't go as planned. Yet, I still see these things as being part of our highest potential, that what is for us. And so, what I really want you to understand when we're operating at our highest potential is three main concepts: attunement, attraction, and amplification. Okay. And so, what I mean by attunement, and you might have heard me talk about this a little bit before as a musician, and as we are attuning to our own natal chart and the harmonics and the frequencies within our own natal chart, is that you can think of your natal chart as like a multi-stringed instrument, say like a guitar or a violin or even a piano, where each of your natal energies, like your sun sign or your moon sign or your rising sign, has a particular frequency, a particular pitch that you are aiming to tune to its highest potential, meaning knowing when you get stuck in past patterns or operating at low frequencies, and really bringing that awareness so you can make different choices and aim towards your highest frequencies, right? It is a fallacy to think that we will always be operating at our highest frequencies. Like, oh my gosh, I am far from perfect. You should see me when I am tired or I have overgiven, and just like how I recognize that I'm operating in my lowest frequencies, and then I can, bring some awareness. And sometimes I choose to operate at the highest frequencies. Sometimes I just still decide to continue on and rage and make everybody around me upset. Thank you, family, for understanding me. But the idea is, when we're attuning to our own natal chart, it's again bringing the awareness of, oh, am I operating at this highest? And so going back to that analogy of tuning up, say, your multi-string guitar, it's, we tune one string, and then maybe we get the sun sign really nice, then we get our moon sign really nice, then we get our rising sign really nice. And we can individually tune each of these strings on the instrument, but that instrument isn't going to fully sound 100%, because now we have to tune the strings, those individual frequencies, to each other so the whole instrument can work in harmony. And so this is one of the big differences if you've ever been to an orchestra concert, or say you've sat in like a middle school orchestra concert. And I've used this analogy many times, but it always is worth repeating. And the biggest difference between, say, a middle school orchestra and a professional orchestra is clearly the intonation, the tuning that individuals, so like a little student who's learning how to play their instrument and learning how to play each of the notes in their right tuning, and then each of the individuals listening to each other to play in tune in the collective. And so this is what a professional orchestra or professional ensemble has really fine-tuned and fine-honed over their experience and practice and many years of practice. Like, even me playing in my ensemble, I play the clarinet, and there's like 5 voices, and the clarinet often has the third of the chord. And so when you're playing a major chord and there's the third of the chord, which is like the middle, like alto note, that alto note, if I play that note precisely in tune within the entire chordal structure, the harmonics, it will sound out of tune, because that note actually has to play a few cents flat. Now, I know I'm probably going over the head for most of us, unless you're into music theory and harmonics, then you probably understand some of the concepts that I'm talking about. But knowing where in a harmonic series you're playing and then really adjusting and fine-tuning in the moment and responding to that moment is really at a high level what attunement means. And so what does this mean in your life and your work? It means that you are responding at your highest potential at every moment in time. Sometimes this means that you have to come to the fore and play a little bit out or play a little bit sharper to make your voice come across. And sometimes this means holding back. This means playing a little bit flatter and not always thinking that you have to strive and move forward and have this quote unquote outward success of growth. So when we're thinking about this idea of attunement, number one, you know what inner success feels like. What does success feel like to you in that moment? Is it peace? Is it happiness? Is it your nervous system being calm? Or is it maybe like shaking energy out of your body? Or maybe it's like putting in the hard work at the time and just like putting your foot on the gas to put in that hard work without overdoing it. Right? So inner success knows like, okay, well, maybe it is time to make money because I have some bills to pay, or I want to pay for this vacation, or I want to buy that diamond tennis bracelet that you've had your eye on for so long that you've been saving up for, right? I'm speaking from, my own my own thing. That is one of the things that I did for myself this year with myself managing my money is one of the success things that I really wanted to invest in myself. And this is just for me. I love fine jewelry and I saved all of my pennies and I bought myself a diamond tennis bracelet and I wear it constantly and it reminds me of all of the work and attunement that I have put in. But that inner success, I want to remind you, is not about outward markers. It isn't owning a house with 2.5 kids and the white picket fence. That is what society and culture teaches you that are markers of success. Your attunement depends on knowing what success feels like for you. Right? If you need some help, you can always look to your moon sign, you can look to your Venus sign, you can look to your second house cusp. All of those will clue you into what inner success feels like to you. Okay, that's number one for attunement. Number two for attunement is that you have faced your biggest challenges and alchemized the wisdom from those challenges. Because you know what? Life is a mixture. It's a full bag of high points and low points, and happiness does not mean that everything is going hunky-dory, that there are no challenges in your life. But attunement means meeting those challenges face on, heart to heart, accepting them, not running away from them, and turning everything that you've learned to cope or deal or overcome, surpass, looking at those challenges and seeing those wisdom, the golden wisdom that you've alchemized from those challenges, right? If you are a video gamer, you like to play video games, right? Like, going into a dead end where you pick up these tools that you're supposed to have for a next level to battle the boss monster. Those are the alchemical gold, right? So attunement depends on you facing your challenges with an open heart, because life is full of challenges. We all have them, some bigger, some smaller. We all have them. And then in attunement of these challenges, of these things, even the high points, the low points, you have a sense that everything that you have experienced and received happens for you, not to you. Right. This is something that when I was working with Nadia Ahrens over in the fall in October, when we were delivering Chiron and Midlife Awakening, we were really deepening into these events that happen for us during these challenging times, and not falling into that pit of victim and blame when we are pointing the finger at everything else besides ourselves and saying, oh, these happened to us and therefore it is making us upset. Like, yes, things can be really, really, really challenging, but there are always learning lessons in them, that silver lining. And so when you are attuned, I want you to remember, you know what inner success feels like for you. You are facing your challenges with an open heart, and you have a sense that all things coming to you happen for you. All things are coming for you. So, attunement. The second part about reaching your highest potential is attraction, right? I know in the last episode, I kind of shared an embarrassing story about when in my single life, and I was in my mid 30s thinking that I was going to be single forever. And then I placed this like really disillusioned relationship on this person. And let me tell you, at this time in my life, I was not meeting the right people. Like, I had some really great friends and I had some really great clients. And I'm not discounting that, but I kept on meeting people that were just like a reflection of who I was at that time, not committing to myself, not committing to my highest goods, not committing to like my highest goals. And so when you are operating at your highest potential, you know that you are attracting the right people, the right opportunities, and you're receiving all those right choices and strategies and experiences, no matter if you're going through a challenge or if you're in that absolute right place. So attraction, again, is your ability to receive. Right? It's your frequency that you are putting out into the world that is magnetizing the right people, the right opportunities, and all of the strategies and experiences and choices that are already laid out for you when you are operating at that highest potential. Right? So these could be, again, like, I love it when, like, I feel like in the last few years, I have been just connected to all these amazing entrepreneurs and spiritual leaders, and going on these different paths where I get to talk to all these amazing people. And I know that this is right for me because this hasn't always been the case. And so I know that I'm really operating at my highest potential because I'm just meeting the most amazing, attuned, aligned people in my life. And the opportunities that come in, right? Those opportunities that spark in your mind, or those invitations that you receive, or when you just like walk to the airport and you like meet somebody like for the first time and you're like, oh my goodness, I feel like I've known you forever, right? When we were at the airport the other day, I'm going to share this story. So it's a little known secret that I absolutely adore Jason Momoa, and the actor Jason Momoa, and he's kind of like my hall pass. And I follow him on Instagram, and I'm always like watching what he's up to. And lately he's been filming a new series for Apple TV that he, co-produced and wrote and is really, really involved in. And of course, it's about the kingdom of Hawaii before it was overtaken. And I think it's called like the chief of Hawaii. I can't remember what it's called at this point. Sorry, details, schmeetails. I'm big picture, right? And so when Rocket and I landed in Hawaii, I saw this big guy. He was on our flight from San Francisco, and he was wearing the T-shirt of this new production, and it was like, it had like the crew on his T-shirt, and so I was just like, I just bravely went up to him and I was like, oh my gosh, how was it working on that set? I've just been following online and it just looks like it was so much fun. And this person, he like just glowed in kind of just like this recognition. And he was sharing that how he was one of the crew playing. He couldn't give me, of course, details of what they were doing because they're under all these NDAs, but he shared a little bit of that experience and how fun it was working with Jason Momoa, and how he felt being part of about that production, and he was just sharing and just glowing about being recognized for that opportunity. And it was just like the smallest interaction at the airport, but it was so wonderful. And I take such gratitude in that opportunity that, maybe he attracted or I attracted, who knows? It was at our highest potential, right? And then lastly, of course, these right choices, strategies, and experiences. So if you've ever been on a new moon ritual with me and are creating new moon intentions, I'm always reminding people to not focus on the how. Right? Like sometimes we hijack our dreams because we can't fathom how we're going to get there, right? Because so far everything in our life has showed us that like we don't have the skills or the experience to get where we need, so we don't even dream up those big dreams that we want to get. But when you are super in tuned and operating at your highest attraction potential, you state what you want. You tell the universe your dreams. You hold that dream in your heart. And before you know it, the universe starts presenting you with the how-tos, the people that you need to know, the strategies that you need to take, the courses, the experiences, all of those things, all of those strategies and choices come directly to you when you are operating at your highest potential. I know for 2023, I have a giant dream ahead of me, and it's a very big dream that actually kind of scares me, and I've been holding on to this dream since April. And I remember I was going out for a drink in San Francisco with one of my luminary mentorship people, Noelia Sanchez. And as I was leaving my house to go meet with her, I had this voice in the back of my head that says, "Tell Noelia about your big dream. She'll be able to help you." And so we were having a conversation at this really wonderful bar in San Francisco, and I told her what I had in my dream, and she's like, "Leslie, I can help you with that." She's like, "I've done these kinds of decks for people, and I can connect you with the people where people are investing in things like this." And I was like, oh my goodness, like my heart was ready to explode with just that serendipity and that attraction. So you know that you're operating at your highest potential when these kinds of things start happening for you. Because if, in a previous part of my life, I would have never been able to hold on to such a big dream. And then, of course, amplification. This is your third key. So attunement, attraction, and amplification. When you're operating at your highest potential, you are full on amplifying your frequency. You easily commit and take responsibility for the things that light you up. Even though sometimes things are hard and you're doing that heavy lifting, you're like, I got this. It wakes you up every morning. You are ready to commit to your dreams. Amplification, you trust yourself and your intuition. When I was sharing that story about chatting with Noelia, remember I was like, as I left the door, there was this little voice in my head that said, "Tell Noelia about your project." Well, thank you, intuition, for reminding me, and thank you to myself for being able to recognize and trust that voice of my intuition. And so this is easy for us to practice and do, no matter where you are on that scale of trusting yourself and your intuition. Another thing about amplification is that you create, contribute, rest, and play in balance without guilt. Again, this is getting off the hamster wheel of hustle, right? There are times to create, there are times to contribute, there are times to rest. And so even though I'm in Hawaii and I have a very short amount of time to work while my son is at winter camp, I know that before I get to work, I have to commit to my own sense of self. So I commit an hour every morning to going for a walk, to clearing my head, to taking in some fresh air, because I know I need that. so I can balance out my work. Even if I only have 3 hours, I know that without that 1 hour for myself, nothing else is going to work in harmony and to be amplified. So I've learned to trust that rest and that nourishing time for myself to take my morning walks in peace without guilt. Lastly, about amplification, I want you to truly know, feel, and express your one of a kind value with ease. This comes back to that radiance. When you are just radiating from a soul level what you were born to do, even if you haven't yet found your purpose or your purpose hasn't found you yet, you know that by operating from your source of your sun's radiance, your sun sign, you know that all of your value, all of your uniqueness is just pouring out of you. You know, feel, trust, and express this radiance with ease because you, my love, are radiant. And I really want you to know that you have the ability to reach your highest potential. And you know that your highest potential when you are attuned, when you are attracting, and when you are amplifying. So let's take a look at my year-end review. I'm going to be sharing some numbers as reflection points. And before we dive into those numbers, I just want to remind you that this is the absolute last few hours to join into Star Powered Circle. The doors close until the next quarter for Star Powered Circle. And I have like one luminary spot left for year-long mentorship. If you are a full body yes, you want to work with me one-on-one, you get quarterly astrobrand readings, you get Voxer access, you get so much more one-on-one time with me, plus access to the circle. If you sign up, I have one spot left. It just absolutely thrills me how aligned Star Powered Circle is. I cannot wait to kick off on January 23rd. So if you are as excited as I am, make sure you sign up. The doors close at midnight, at 11:59 p.m. Pacific on 12/21 on solstice. So I hope you come in. The community is already amazing. We have so many things planned for you in the new year. I'm just like absolutely bonkers bananas excited. All right, so let's take a look at the year-end review. Of course, I do collect a lot of metrics from our monetary metrics to podcast downloads to subscribers to courses delivered. I haven't done such a good job at collecting metrics of like my days off, but this year has been a very interesting year. In the previous episode where I talked about just kind of the celestial cycles, I really knew that this year ahead was going to be a little bit challenging for me because I had a bunch of Saturn transits. And so I purposefully, according to my own highest potential, knew that I couldn't overdo things this year. And so while some of our metrics I have definitely decreased percentages. There was so much more fulfillment, even though maybe according to the outside, a metric sheet, people would say oh, well, Leslie didn't do so well. That is not true. And so from a top level, just money, I haven't figured out all of my money just yet, but just in pure transparency, this has been the biggest income year that I've had to date. I'm super, super, super excited. Now, it hasn't been the biggest profit year because I have really, really invested in my team. Of course, you know that Jeff, my right-hand man, he is there by my side, and I love paying fair wages. We also have had other team members come in this year at the year end. Jamira Payne has just done so many amazing things with just marketing and tightening things up. And and really help, like bringing in more strategy. I invest a lot in my own coaches. This year, actually for 2 years now, I've been working with Megan Hale, who I've sent a lot of you to Megan Hale because she's just so great at like implementing those strategies, whether this is around your money map and how to allocate and organize your money for sustainability so money feels comfortable and not scary, which, just a few years ago, money was super scary for me. But Megan really taught me how to save for profit, save for my business savings, pay my team, save for taxes, having a really wonderful giving fund. I have like several $1,000s of giving that I'm still going to allocate before the year's end. I'm super excited about that. But, without going into the exact details, this has just been a bumper of a year in terms of profit. But that's because I've been really like investing in these things to make my business run with offers that are completely attuned and aligned to my unique energy and my expertise. I've invested in my coaches. I've invested in a support team. I've invested in a lot of these different things to really elevate this business so that it can run in a much more streamlined, organized fashion. Okay. So, of course, you are listening to this podcast, and in February, even though I changed from the Savvy Luminary to Star Powered this year, I know the shift from the outside, it looks like it was drastic, but for me, it was just kind of like this natural evolution. Like I just wanted something, again, that was more streamlined, that was much more powerful, that was just like much easier to say. And so I got really burnt out from podcasts in 2021 and the beginning of 2022. So in March, I really like stepped on the brakes with podcasting because, I was delivering like 2 episodes a week. And so back in 2021, oh my gosh, I created 94 podcast episodes, 94 in 2021. Okay. In 2022, I only created a third of those episodes, clocking in at 33 episodes. So, of course, the listeners, the downloads of those episodes went down, but it only went down 13%. So in 2021, I had close to 40,000 downloads of this humble little podcast. I know it's a very niche kind of podcast, so I appreciate every single download. Thank you for listening. And in 2022, with 33 episodes, we are still at 33,500 downloads and counting because we're not done with the year yet. And a lot of that was because thanks to Jamira, thanks to Jeff, they really started repurposing some of these valuable podcasts. So we organized them into different categories and groups, and it's so interesting to see like trace users as they come in and the episodes that are most that people love listening to and the episodes that get binged. And so it's so wonderful to see that even though that we produced only a third of the podcast episodes, our downloads only dropped 13%. Now, things that really shifted in this year is that in 2022 is that I really was moving more towards creating courses because I noticed that in my money and in my metrics, the most profitable part of my business was my astrology trainings and courses. And so I delivered a total of 6 courses live this year. Next year, even more, where in 2021, I only delivered 4. And so I'm super excited. And between those 6 courses, I served over 527 students. Now, of course, there's some people that repeated, right? Because every time I deliver a course, there's always everybody's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because if you're like me and you're an astrology lover, like we are just so hungry for astrology. And so thank you to the 527 students that have trusted me and allowed me to guide them in these astrology courses. Now, Astrobrand readings. These are those one-on-one readings that I deliver, 75 to 90 minutes at a time. And normally people, like new clients, I require people to come in to see me at least 4 times so we can make sure to go through all the important parts in their brand and their leadership that really need to be amplified. And so this was a little less than last year. In 2021, I delivered 138 sessions, and in 2022, I delivered 135 sessions. But there were really giant parts of 2022 that I blocked off my calendar just because I didn't have the capacity to deliver these one-on-one readings. These one-on-one readings, I love them so much, and I get to create these very intimate connections with people, but they take a lot of my energy and capacity. So I have to be really mindful of how many readings I can deliver in a year. So 135 Astrobrand readings. So thank you to everyone who allowed me to guide them in this most deepest and sacred ways. Same as 2021, as in 2022, I offered 10 guest presentations where people have invited me into their communities to talk about astrology or new moon rituals. That felt really wonderful. I just absolutely love being connected and being part of new communities and cross-pollinating and sharing the gift of astrology. There were 13 new moons this year, and I I think this number will grow because I still have another 15 more to deliver. So this is close to 150 mini new moon readings. I had provided 2 Mercury retrograde classes, 7 new moon ceremonies, which in 2023, this will be 12 new moon ceremonies. I was a guest on 10 podcast episodes this year, which is a little less than last year. So we'll see if my schedule allows me to do that for next year. We've written 12 business starcasts, 1 for each month. And then, of course, web and brand design projects, those do for you projects. We committed to 8 this year. Generally, we only have space to do, at the most 10 a year because these projects are, again, really intimate. We do for you according to your astrology, and it's just been so wonderful, the results that we get from these do for you web and visual brand projects. So super excited. Thank you to everyone who invested in me for that. We had 3 Astrobrand intensives, writing brand books for people. It's such an honor to be able to channel these messages, the marketing messages that want to come through for these businesses. And 0 books written this year, which actually was kind of a relief. So we'll see if there's more books on the horizon, maybe in the future. I don't have any books planned for 2023, but looking back on 2020 and the 2 books that I wrote in 2020 and the 1 book that I wrote with Natalie Miller for 2021, that has been wonderful. And so in 2023, this year, I didn't even celebrate it. Oh my goodness, how terrible of me to not celebrate it. But Star Powered Brand, that book I launched in 2020, had its 2-year anniversary, and we sold at this point maybe a little more than 600 copies. I know that is by far not a best-selling number, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Am I reaching my highest potential? I feel I do. I loved that book. It was exactly what I needed at that time. Will it be refashioned in the future? I'm sure it will, but at this point in time, that is not on the horizon. So, my friends, that was my year in review. And of course, I encourage you to collect the metrics that best serve you, right? And knowing that just because things go down doesn't always mean that that's not your highest potential, right? There was places that I really appreciated things going down, and I appreciated things going up. Like there's just like so many wonderful things. And so remember, we reflect so that we can start connecting the dots, and we reflect so that we can see what we appreciated, what we want more of, what we want less of. We reflect so that we can make better and informed choices. And of course, we reflect so we can start recognizing the signs and the symbols that are already there, waiting for us to see and acknowledge them. So, my friends, thank you for listening. If you've made it to the end, have a most wonderful holiday season. May 2023, as we approach 2023, bring you so much joy, peace, happiness, abundance, and health. Thank you, and more next year. Signing off for this year, it's Leslie Tagorda. Can't wait till next year. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.